Our first panel of the day dives into the tension between convenience and privacy, between personalized experiences and the data trails that we all leave behind. The session is titled Big Data versus Privacy. How much do companies really know about us? And it asks a question that's becoming harder to ignore as technology becomes more woven into our daily life. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Put your hands together in a massive round of applause for Mr. Shubham Kashyap, the co-founder and CTO of Unified Labs. Joining him, we have Mr. Umesh Kumar, the Associate Director of IQVIA RDS. Joining them, we have Mr. Silur Abraham, the CTO of Cabinet Noir. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Kiyor Shah, the CEO of FUELD Solutions. Please put your hands together in a warm welcoming round of applause for our panelists. And now, gentlemen, I hand off the mic to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, I'm Umesh Kumar. I'm Associate Director for IQVIA RDS India Private Limited. I'm in clinical data science. So, I'm working for the clinical operations where we develop softwares and we look for the clinical data. So, this is about me.
Should we start with the, yeah?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we have an interesting topic at hand, right? Given the fact with the advent of AI over the course of last 2 years, privacy per se, according to me at least, is a myth. And it has not been because of AI, it has been because like how we generally treat data to be the core of whatever we are making, right? The balance between privacy and personalization and how stakeholders who can afford it really decide on that, okay, the government wants to actually, the government's intent is to surveil, right? The corporation's intent is to profile and the user's intent is to personalize. So I really think that, okay, privacy is a myth, is kind of a true statement. But I would like to know, what are your thoughts on it? Like, do you guys agree?
Yeah, so the basic point over here is like, when we talk about privacy, it is much more of the data-driven. Every decision is going to be a data-driven. So now it is, what we need to understand is how we ensure that the user privacy is much more stabilized, the user data is much more secured, and they are not utilized for other operations. So very basic example is like, in India, typically when you are taking a credit card, they ask you to fill up a form. Now, you are asking to get the credit card. Now, that particular data is used for other operations also. They would be using that data for loans. They would be using those data for insurances, etc. So it has to be in a way where whatever data we are using or we are generating or we are getting from the users, it has to be used for that particular manner itself, not using it for other purposes. That is how it has to be there. See, at any given point of case, if there is a large data, then and then only we can make right decisions. So for example, when we talk about healthcare, so our smartwatches are getting the data. Now that is for the benefit of us, right? Because from that trend only, they would be able to get some information about our health, and they would be able to predict it, and they would be able to probably stop us from any catastrophic situations. So those kind of data collections are always good. They are not meant for privacy breach because that is not what they are doing. But we need to ensure that the data, there is always a pattern in data. You are a data analyst, right? So you can understand it very well. There is always a pattern. So if there is a pattern which can be matched, then it is also a privacy issue. So how we are securing that particular data, that is very much important. So typically GDPR compliances, right? So that is one of the basic example which leads people to ensure that that data is private, they are secured, and they are not used by anyone else. So there has to be the same kind of policies. Now, generally what happens, like we do have a software development company. So what we typically do, everybody says that, okay, we are going to launch out a product. And once it is launched, then we will be taking care of the privacy part. Then we would be taking care of the GDPR compliances at all. So it has to be from the base itself. It has to be infrastructure level.
Yeah,
We should be thinking of creating a product, creating an application which is by default secured, data monitored from default, and that is how we can prevent the misuse of the data. That is what my understanding is. Without data, I don't think it's so. The world would be much more smarter.
I agree.
And it would be able to grow much more.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, that it is more of a compliance concern for us or companies, right? But it needs to be more of like a actual selling point. Yeah, I agree. Silur, you want to take?
Well, with privacy, this is exactly a good start because we can discuss why the title is a versus big data versus privacy. So, because they oppose each other, privacy is kind of an anti-product. Nobody likes to hear that you need to implement it, and if you hear it, it's only because of legal or compliance reasons, not because you want privacy solutions to be part of the architecture, because you're into the patterns that you can actually sell for a business value. And it always feels like the privacy implementations and solutions are holding this back. So that's why it's a very sensitive topic to talk with experts here, yeah.
Yeah. So additional to this, the most of the companies, what they are doing, they are having data in one server. And from that, we are working from the different locations. So that is the major concerns, how to just stop the thing when, if someone is working on the server and if they are not copying the data to the local server. So that is the major concern, so that with that information, somebody can store the information of some healthcare things. Just like what he said, that we have smartwatches and the credit card information. So in the servers, we are storing the data. So that is the major concerns, what the bigger companies, they are facing, how to stop those things.
Yeah.
So the central point of failure you see is a major risk surface.
Right.
Can I also take that you are in favor of distributed solutions then to enhance privacy?
No, I think that is one thing, but we should have the firewalls that lot of people, they are using whatever they are using. So we should have the firewalls so that it should not, they should not crack the firewall and they can just take out the data from there.
Yeah. So that is what I suppose I started with.
Yeah.
It has to be at any given point of case, the security by the infrastructure, the privacy should be by default. So normally, whatever the you can say the enterprise application. It is not about the small applications. Typically, let us say there is a product. The founders typically have always a crunch. So they always want to go with the user acquisition much more than into the security part. That is something which starts the debate, right? They are not much more looking into how to secure the entire application. They just want the users to be much more using that application. So if we consult them in a very right way, that if you are going to use this, this is how the infrastructure would be looking like. You can use n number of things, thanks to Azure, AWS, GCP, all these things, when we talk about security, comes by default, not by default, means, yeah, we need to configure them, but it is very much easily configurable. It can be done with a very limited budget. It is just like we need to pitch them. That's
yeah,
it.
so additional to that, whenever a new programmer or new developer is just joining the company, so we should have the SOPs and all,
Yeah.
and they should be trained on that, so that they should not be diverted from that. Yeah. So that is the major thing we are looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, see, action points have been clear to us since a while, right? What I actually want to, so there are two waters. Of course, we will go into security. But why do you guys think that, so currently the compliance, at least the GDPR or the SOC 2 compliances that we have to do, right? A lot of it is based on audits, right? Yeah. And why do you think that even today when we have figured out technology at this scale, right? It's not that like we have a privacy SDK, a global privacy SDK standard where everybody has to put it in the system, right? Do you guys think that regulators by themselves are biased because they are also using it? Why is everybody doing this half-heartedly, according to you?
Yeah,
Because
completely
as
agree.
you said, like it is more of a compliance concern for us. We don't go and like tell people in the UI that okay, we are tracking your location right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, completely, everybody is doing half-heartedly. I completely agree with you in that particular topic. Means that is what my observation is. I cannot check
Yeah.
for the
I
all the
agree.
people, but yeah, that is what I also believe. Uh, Data privacy is very much required. Everybody has to do it, but nobody is willing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so completely agree.
Yeah, it's because it makes you less competitive in whatever area you are trying to compete. If you just see examples that, okay, I'm trying to focus on compliance first, and all my competitors perform better on the AI LLM benchmarks because, for example, they violated copyright laws and privacy laws, read into my private emails that had more textual conversation in natural language, they just perform better, and that's what the end user saw, and nobody cares about that Google read into my private emails to reach this level. And when you compare these benchmarks, you just see a better product and a worse product, and that creates on the long term this dissatisfaction and fear that privacy solutions would inherently mean a worse product, which is, we know that it's not true because, yeah, most of us are developers, but we can't explain this to the upper echelon in the company structure hierarchy.
Yeah, so again, when we start the discussion, probably we cannot stop getting the data, acquiring the data. That is what, because every company, every decision needs to be data-based. We can always make decisions on the basis of emotions, but probably there are very high chances that we can go wrong in that. So it has to be data-driven. So companies, product, organizations, government, etc., needs to acquire data. So recently in India, they created one application which would be tracking, yeah, Sanchar Sathi, right?
Oh, yeah.
So many people started using, buying iPhone because that application is not available on iPhone. So people always think that, okay, that is a data breach. But they don't understand, the people, that is the consumer also, they don't understand why they are using that particular data, what is the reason why government is capturing that data. Now, unless and until people also don't give a very nice hoarding, displaying and saying that why this data is used, that is where people will always think it out in otherwise. So there has to be one boundary for each and every data piece which will be used. It has to be told to the consumers, the end consumers, and that is how we should be able to take it further. Else, without data, without acquiring data, I don't think it's so. Any company, even for example, Apple is probably making loss on smartwatches. Definitely, they are making losses on smartwatches. But then also, they are investing because that is how they are collecting the data. They would be analyzing that, okay, Kevor's health is this much, his heartbeats are normally this much. They would be getting those data, and probably in future, they are going to come up with certain materials. Means Apple is, I suppose, going for hospitals also.
Yeah.
They are providing large devices on hospitals for monitoring the data. And that is how their vision is to have some devices or some products which can actually help the health. That is not much more about the problem, privacy intrusion. It is much more about data-driven decision. That is what we need to take care. Yeah.
So I think I want to kind of follow up on that. Uh, so anonymization and aggregation is something that big platforms use as a defense, right? That I don't know exactly whose information this is, but I'm just trying to like ascertain a pattern. It's a big data, right? So how much do you think that affects the user's understanding of it, or like is it actually taking care of the major privacy concerns for what we are currently discussing?
Yeah, one more thing, we had a start discussion on the Sanchar Sarthi like that. So what do you think that how much it will be secure if we are giving a big data to our government? And so what will be the, how that can be useful for the government and how that can be secured? Because now we are talking about the privacy, security, and how that will be. So I want to just want to have a discussion on that if we can have. So if that is.
I personally don't trust any government with data actually. Yeah, I
I
really
want to
think-
hear from Keywood, sir.
Yeah, sure.
So he has started with that. So that's why just I wanted to understand that. What is your thought on that?
What I normally believe is we didn't found any kind of data breaches from the government till date. We are not aware of it. Typically, when we talk about the big data, whenever there is a breach, it has to be told to the customers also, consumers also. That has to be, that is how, let us say there is a GDPR compliance. Okay, there is an application which got hacked. Now, that is not in our hands. The hackers are way smarter than developers. That is the real world situation is. So it is first who hackers try to hack things, and then the developers try to prevent it. So they are always one step ahead of us. That is what is the actual real life is. So we need to ensure that if there is a such type of breach, the required person needs to be updated. That, okay, the data has been breached, these are the consequences, and these are the remediation steps which we are taking in order to ensure that it doesn't happen for the next time. So for till date, I never found any kind of information where Indian government data has been breached. There are always chances that someone intentionally uses that data, but that happens with every government. It is not only with India, right?
Yeah, incident response is a serious privacy angle, not just general security and risk assessment, but the privacy angle of it is an important topic in itself to model in the company structure. Yeah, incident response, especially in the case of breaches. So getting back on your previous question, though, the solutions and anonymizations, I really like the layout because we have clinical data science here too. And with Cabine Noir, my specialty is advanced cryptographic solutions, privacy, encryption, all of these. And I want to bring up as an answer to your question, differential privacy, that I do think personally there are tools that can have the best of both, because my concern, not just as a developer, as a user, when I get angry that my data gets collected. Yesterday, for example, Uber announced that they are starting to sell the takeout and the ride data to marketers. Yeah, who would have thought? So when I read these news, the first thing I care about, that I'm not offended by their need to make data-driven decisions, because I also run a business and I have arguments with my CEO that we need to collect this data because I need to see this statistic to make data-driven decision. That's not my problem. It's when the data can be shrinked down to me as a singular person, and you lose the statistics about it, because me as a singular market sample, I'm not saying anything about the market, especially that I'm actually a very counterexample on most IT markets. So this is what I care about. And DP, differential privacy, is a solution to this, because it lets you take the aggregate statistics on your data without the ability to shrink it down to any single user. And Google actually, hats off to them. They are actually using it in Google Chrome when they collect usage data, silently shipped it out again, because there is this negative perception about differential privacy. It sounds a little ominous. What does it say about the product? So it's a silent feature. Apple also uses it. But there are these solutions even out there on the market that can bring the best of both closer to us, albeit I have to say they do skew the data a little.
So again, when we talk about data, most of the cases, any enterprise-grade application would be encrypting the private information. That is how the standards are, right? And there are so many nice algorithms. I suppose entropy, I forgot the name, in Web3. I'm very bad with the names.
Homomorphic encryption.
Yeah, so I don't know, it is a very nice encryption methodology. User has to add a 12-digit keys, okay? It is from a dictionary itself, and that means not the quantum computers. Even means that is what I have read. Even let us say if we combine all the infrastructure which we have right now, then also it will take around 10,000 years to decrypt that particular message. So those kind of things are already available. Data can be secured in a way where it cannot be decrypted by anyone. It is much more about what we want to do and how we do it. It is not about means we cannot stop drinking water if we think that, okay, this water is polluted, right? We need to drink water. Big data is like that. We will require data because that is a need. Without that, we cannot take any decisions. It is how we ensure that we actually make it much more secure, make it much more data-driven, ensuring it is not used somewhere else. That is how it has to be taken. It has to be very much transparent.
Yes, similar thing is getting used by WhatsApp also. Now everyone is using WhatsApp. So those things are encrypted. So nobody can just, the first user and the end user, they can only just see and they can just see what is the message on that.
We
So
don't
it's,
fully know that, though. They claim to
I
use
think,
the double ratchet from...
I think one of the key problems of Meta taking over WhatsApp was there are fine lines in these things.
Oh.
So they can read if you're chatting with a business account. Yeah, that is clear. So if somebody has a local business and they have made a business account, all of their personal chats are also something that WhatsApp can read. It's not protected by end-to-end encryption. But that's what I actually am going back to our same point that is there a way in which big corporations can be actually regulated where they don't exploit this? And if there is, right, why are regulators not doing it? What do you guys think
So
about
is
that?
there any other alternative for WhatsApp business? Just like nowadays everyone is used to WhatsApp, right? So now suppose if somebody wants to do a startup, so they are not aware of this kind of things. So if we know that some kind of alternative is there, so or we have to, if suppose there are a lot of developers, so we can approach to a developer and they can develop the things like that, so that we can use it.
There doesn't exist a competitor to this, but not because of the technicalities of the encryption, it's because of the user base. So any of us can, by tomorrow, bring up a quantum-safe encrypted and end-to-end chat, but we are not going to have your family on there and your business partners. So it's more like, again, not the privacy and the technological push, but our tools are technological. So that's why we are always at a disadvantage in this big data versus privacy, because the driver of the big data part is much bigger than tech. It's data-driven decisions, it's business, it's user acquisition, but the privacy is only a technological constraint.
And
Completely agree with.
coming back to your question, Shubham, so normally what I have observed is whenever some organization is capturing certain data, there has to be an audit. That audit is mandate every year once at least. It can be twice in a year. And that is always done by the third party. Now, many times the third party is not known. So many times Deloitte does it, many times someone else, unless until you know those kind of guys. I'm not talking about governments. I don't know about governments, how they are working on it. But that is what I know about some enterprise clients. And auditing is never done by the same organization. It is always third party. QA team also, it is always suggested you should be having a third party, and that is how there are the bounty hackers. Yeah. Okay, so they also do those kind of auditings, XYZ. Not for the security part, but yeah, they do ensure that there are no breaches into the system. So those things are already there. I am not so big to talk about the governments. I don't have any kind of information for that. But yeah, for enterprises, definitely there are clauses which are there in order to ensure that they are not doing it. But at any given point of case, see, there are separations for the private, means privacy.
Yeah.
There are separation for the normal data. What they are doing with the normal data, which they are collecting, that we don't have any idea because that something goes at higher positions, okay? But it depends on organization to organization if they wants to sell out, etc. Okay, but in normal scenario, it is all taken care of. That is what my understanding is. I might be wrong, but what we have done, we know it very well that okay, this is how it has been done.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So, see, the nature of technology is such that technology itself is never going to decide what the application is going to be. It is the intent of the user, right? Intent of the stakeholders, at least, who are managing it. So, when it comes to anonymized information, I don't know if anybody knows the tool Mixpanel, right? So, they had a very recent breach where, like, I think they were able, the hackers were able to like get emails out of their own live tracking pixels, right? So when it comes to these things where you are very aggressively tracking the user on platforms, on their interactions, and all of these things, right? When a security breach occurs, what exactly do you think we can do to protect this data? Because the audits, of course, are like getting a little bit outdated, right? What are the new steps that we need to take with the advent of AI, with at least like very new social engineering concepts that hackers use? What can we do to make it update it a little bit?
So normally, Web3 can be one of the solution. He would be able to add much
Very
more.
expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive, definitely, but it is one of the solution where data is decentralized altogether. It is not, means even if there is a part of application which is hacked, the user won't be able to get other information. But yeah, there are certain things because it is all saved on the smart contract. So if you have that ID, the people would be able to get the information about what is there in that particular contract. So again, when we are creating a smart contract, we need to ensure that what information we are putting up in the smart contract, there are also bifurcations over there. So it is much more about architecture-driven information, which we need to keep it. What data needs to be there in centralized server, what data needs to be on the decentralized, what information we keep on the smart contracts, etc. But yeah, combination of all of them can be a solution. In Web 2 also, there are certain ways where we again desegregate the data, but it depends how we are using it. There are always alternatives. Every problem has multiple solutions.
Yeah.
It is up to us which solution we want to go. The one, as you said, it is very costly.
Yeah.
Now, that is what people always think, that okay, it is costly, so we should not be taking that particular solution. That is the normal outcome, normal behavior of each and every user, each and every entrepreneur. Probably means that is how the decisions are taken by big enterprises also, right? So everybody wants cheap solution, probably, it is just a saying. They are not looking for the sustainable solution. That is where the problem arises.
Because of this profitability that all the companies, they want the profits. So if they are going to purchase this kind of software, so their profitability will go down definitely. So that are the major things that definitely the companies, they don't go for it.
It is not only the profitability they are looking for. Many times they brand it in a way that your product is much more secure.
Yeah.
So it is value driven many times. Yeah, at the end of the day, it is the numbers which counts, but he is into venture capital, right? So many times people don't look into profits. They look into how much data they are collecting, and that is how the decisions are taken. There are so many, ChatGPT, it is making losses right now.
Yeah.
But then also, it is a billion-dollar company, billions of dollars.
I
company,
agree
right?
with you on the fact that it can be a value offering. But over the years, I think only Apple was able to, at least like according to my understanding, leverage it as a proper value offering. Do you guys think that maybe users only don't care that much, that they are looking at it as a value driven?
Agree, completely agree. User never thinks, if I'm a consumer, probably I'm not using many of the application, but yeah, there are so many people who are using n number of applications, they don't care about their privacy at all. It is, though the government do have certain mandates with respect to GDPR and all. If the user is deleting his account, we need to delete all the data.
Yeah.
But who is actually ensuring that
That is
those
happening.
data has been deleted? So I suppose in GDPR compliance also, after 48 hours, you can, actually the consumer can also check if that data is deleted or not. But no one is checking into it. I have never seen any user actually trying to hit that particular endpoint and check is my data is available still or not. So that is how it has been. Yeah.
And many users, they don't know these are the things that is available. So they just use it and just they go ahead. So they,
Unfortunately, it is not for India. It is much more for the UK and Europe
Yeah.
side. It is the GDPR compliance. California CIPA, I forgot the short form. But yeah, they do have those kind of compliances. India, unfortunately, still don't have. In Web3
Okay.
also, we are still creating our blueprint, blue book, which can actually formalize so many things. So, but yeah, we are getting towards that area, and that is why we are tracking up the data and ensuring those things. Again, there are so many things. We do have a very large population. We do have a very large number of users. Everybody is targeting the consumer information. So we need to, as a government policies also, they cannot be created in a day.
Yeah,
It
that's
needs
true,
to be
completely agree.
time-taking thing, right?
And if someone, means some companies, they wants a data. So India has a huge population, so they can just create an app and they can collect a lot of data. So that is also a major concern for
Which they did, I
Indian
guess.
government. So that is the thing.
And the service providers are aware of this asymmetry and discrepancy between user needs and regulation. And especially in Europe, we mentioned GDPR. I'm from Europe. I was looking forward to the date when GDPR becomes active to start terrorizing all the accounts where I'm having one. And to this date, so today I'm pretty sure, because I still have arguments over email over my deletions, that the GDPR, for example, states that every such service provider needs a data protection delegate, an individual who's in charge of incident responses and data privacy in general when such requests come. Most companies in Europe don't have this person still, because nobody receives the requests of data deletion or transfer. So this is another thing, that data transfer between competitor services is also part of GDPR, not just the deletion. If I have a mobile carrier and I want to change mobile carriers because they offered me something better, you should be able to transfer and delete from the older one. So this is also part of it. But since nobody is interested in this, no service provider goes through the whole process, or most service providers, unless you're a huge enterprise, you statistically don't go through this whole process. They know this, and they have to do just the bare minimum to do the GDPR checkboxes for Deloitte.
Yeah. As said, it is not compliance driven. It means everybody looks compliance as compliance, not for a reason. It is just because they need to. And that is where the entire problem arises, right? So if we do it from scratch, if we create the applications in that way, I don't think it, so there would be much more issues. Yeah.
So to dig in a little bit into that, if as a shared if as a community, right, technology companies need to now start, I mean, this is imaginary, of course, like I don't think anybody is, but still, if we need to create it as a value offering, what do you think that system design is going to evolve into? Like, what do we need to do to make sure that the user is going to see it as a value offering, and the market forces are going to make sure that, okay, some applications work because they are showing you or being transparent, right? What do you think we need to change in that terms?
So are you referring to transparency here, which really drives the conversation
Yeah.
to a Web3 or a privacy-driven? Because
So I am trying to, so I'm not specifically saying for Web3 or Web2. What I'm trying to say is that what are those things, what are those steps that we can take so that users actually see it as a value offering, if we have to? Because users don't care currently because they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, I don't believe the solution is to make privacy attractive to users because I firmly believe it won't
Yeah.
happen. Like there is this Zuko triangle in Web3. It's been renamed um, to no. That was the Schneier triangle in security. Yeah, that privacy and security is inherently anti-user friendly, and it's been renamed to Zuko triangle in Web3. And I do believe in that. It's my personal view that the solution is especially not to try to make it appealing to the users because it just won't happen.
Anybody else? Do you?
No.
Yeah.
I don't have much say on this, but sorry, I would like to pass.
Yeah. Not a problem.
One way is to turn it into security. So we did mention that many companies brand themselves positively because of the security. So for example, zero trust, this would not be communicated to the users, but a zero trust architecture would mean an inherently more secure. There is no way that a zero trust and a no zero trust solution for the same business problem is not going to have inherent privacy advantage. And what the user hears from this, that this is the more secure product. So this hiding and blurring way of branding yourself more secure and private, I think, is the way, not directly pushing privacy for the user.
Okay. So let's not make it a marketable feature. Yes, I get it. So, okay. So, I think we should also take, in your experience, because we are doing this as a question, and the topic is, of course, that how much companies actually do know about us, right? So from your experience, what are those unique things that you found out that they know? Like, for an example, I know that Indian businesses which has offline and online, right, do use technologies like geofencing to track your location in terms of, like, specific places where you enter, you will get notifications. Like the system will get notified that you have entered a certain geofence, and they're going to give you personalized recommendations, which is basically location tracking, right? And these are very complicated ways in which you try and figure out information that might be considered private. So what are those unique things that you, in your experience, figured out that that private information is being shared, right? And user might not know.
So again, when we talk about the information, there are two types of information. One is the end consumer information, and one is at the organization level. So for example, if I'm talking at the organization level, I have to keep the information about each and every employee where they are traveling. So because I'm using an organization shoot. So in that case, location tracking, their communication, etc. becomes a part of compliance. So for example, whatever messages we are sending, if the user means we are using Microsoft, okay? So in Microsoft, they do have options where we track out each and every information, whatever email they are sending, etc. At any given point of case, if someone is sending any personal information via email, I would be notified for that. And that is required because I need to ensure that none of the private information from the organization is sent to anyone else. It is something which is very much important. It is compliance driven. When we talk about the end consumer, definitely the location tracking, etc., can be a problem, but it depends again on who is using that data. So if, let us say, some company is tracking my location, it is a good in a way because, let us say, something happens to me, I met an accident. As they know my location, they are able to track it out and they are able to support me at the right time. So it is much more about who is using your data and for what reason. Data sharing is not as bad as we think. It is much more about who is using that particular data and how they are using that data. There are also compliances for that particular purpose also. As, for example, we are traveling out stations, right? So Microsoft at the organization level. So Microsoft or any other providers, they do have certain features like we can access emails on the mobile directly at that time. Normally, it is not allowed. So we do have certain, you can say, applications which tracks each and every packet information which is transferred in the company intranet. Okay, so those things are very much required. File sharing means whoever are sending the files, each and every file, each and every packet of that particular file is traced, because I don't want my customers to feel like, okay, Keyur, I have written code. You have created a $1 billion product for us, and now that copy is with n number of users, right? Just because one of the employee used it and shared it across the world. That is not how it has to be done.
I agree with you. In a corporate responsibility sense, I totally agree. Security is a synonymous. What my question is more about is how a lot, like India, of course, has a lot of lending players, right? Digital lending players, they will get access to your SMSs, your contact lists, right? We have had those scenarios where, their collection mechanism is like creating a WhatsApp group with your close ones and then demeaning you in terms of, so all those things are, of course, existing. So my question is more about, in your experience, what are those things or technologies that that is being used to collect private information in a sense that the actual end user wouldn't know? Yeah.
I do believe the majority of it, and one of my one of my employees long ago, he now works for Facebook, and you're gonna understand why exactly, wrote his PhD thesis on a topic that I didn't know before in algebraic geometry. Not gonna get into too much to the technicalities. He showed that if you draw a graph, so dots and edges, and you delete the dots, and I just only tell you the length of the edges, so there are long lines and short lines. Just by this, he's able to reconstruct the whole graph. And I immediately understood that you're gonna get headhunted tomorrow from this company by a marketing agency, because essentially what you said, that missing and incompletely analyzed data sampled at a particular point in time will tell you much more about, the metadata will tell you much more than the user who you are sampling. So I'm not on any kind of social media, but just because my sisters are, my wife are, they also have my data. Yeah. Because I might have gone to a concert with them with a tagged photo of it, or just mentioning something about the brother or the husband. So I'm also there. And these are data that I not only don't know, but I explicitly want to avoid being collected, but I can't, because if the surrounding samples contain anything about me, I can be reconstructed.
Yeah. I'm sure you must have, you are sitting on one of the most private data bases that, yeah.
So one of the major part is with respect to the phishing attacks, right? So most of the games, let us say mobile gaming companies, they do create games which are very much intuitive, and user also many times don't know that their private information are also captured. People many times don't check that how data, means how they are securing the data, is it like HTTPS or not, means those kind of information, the basic understanding is not there, and this is throughout the world. It is not only in India, means there are so many people from the Western countries also, they are getting hacked every day. They are, you can say, compromised because of the phishing attacks. Many times they go and add, means, for example, if you receive an email saying that, okay, your bank account is added by $10,000, then probably you will go and check, and it is a phishing attack for you, right? Gaming companies, so many other providers, means which we think, for example, e-commerce companies, we go and download a number of things, applications. Now, we don't know what that particular application is doing. No doubt, Apple, Google, they are trying to ensure that whatever permissions we are having, that goes with the application itself. We are not allowed to track n number of things, else the application won't be going on the App Store or Play Store. But then also, there are so many other things which can be done. So, yeah.
So the major thing what I have seen in, because the hospitals, they have because in hospitals, if you are going for any checkup or any other things, so all the data what they are collecting in hospitals, so it will be get shared with the different hospitals, because they wants to collect that and they want to see that uh, what kind of trends they are going on and what kind of disease can come in the future. So for that, so that data gets shared between them, but we are not sure that what and with whom they are sharing that data. So there should be some compliance with that. So, but most of in India, I have seen that is not get followed with the regulations. So many people, they are, means if suppose if there are some patients, they are not aware of that, but we are using that data. So it has to be consent to them that we are using this, and suppose if we are using some app with the hospitals or some clinics, so they are also collecting the data and with your geographical region, that how that, and so it has to be some kind of things should be there with the major hospitals.
Yeah, so I would like to add over here. So typically in UK, Europe side, NHS is one of the organization who is taking care of all these things. NHS tracks all this information for the people for a reason that they can actually check a trend that, okay, how many people are getting flu, influenza, XYZ, XYZ. And based on that, they would be allocating a budget for the next year. That this is the
Right.
budget which needs to be there for this kind of diseases. And every patient information is captured by NHS. That is the law. In India, government is also targeting those kind of information. It is typically EHS and one more thing.
ECHS.
Yeah, ECHS. So again, means it depends on consumer to consumer. Last time, what I know about is government tried promoting it very well. They also give certain kind of rewards to the hospital for adding those data using that particular platform. But that was misinterpreted. That was misused. So there were around 50 crore patient information which was pulled in just because government is giving the, you can say, per user, per patient, they are giving 10 rupees, 15 rupees. Okay, so they added wrong data, right data, we don't know. But that, see, typically it depends how we are using it. There are certain things, it is ultimately depending on the user.
Yeah. Users education, of course, is like, we are crunched on time, so I think like one thing that we need to cover, of course, because we are sitting here doing this, is now with AI systems in place, right? And when creators also don't know how the information is actually going to be processed by the system, right? How do you think this landscape changes? Is because I very honestly think that particularly with Gemini 3 and everybody, and thinking algorithms advancing themselves like every week, I really think that this information kind of has completely gone away, right? We are in that place where privacy, absolute, like all the information will be available to the AI. AI is going to have an opinion, and it is going to do whatever it's going to do, like, and certain like ascertain its behavior according to what the opinion is. What do you guys think?
I think, and in many ways we can already measure this, big data collection reached a level that attackers not only try to break inside from the outside into a system that collects big data, but from the Anthropic hack, we see that they know that you create any kind of data online, let it be a drawing on DeviantArt or a text on Messenger, it's going to be picked up by a big data collection algorithm, 100%. So you can poison inside to the organization. And this happened with Anthropic's coding model, that the attackers wrote code on GitHub that they knew is going to be picked up by an LLM coding engine. It went into the model, and because the decision, the big data-driven decisions, the decisions itself is made by an AI now, it got poisoned, and then the output was ransomware from Anthropic. So the attack is not purely visualized as like a big catapult trying to break into the Google data center from the outside with scripts, but you just create data, lie it out there because it's going to make it into an organization. And this is a completely new kind of threat we have to look out for.
Yeah, I also completely agree. It is always the leaf node which needs to be secured. When we talk about AI is always making decisions based on the data, based on the learnings which he has. So if he is having a wrong learning, then it is going to take decisions on top of that. So we need to ensure that what kind of data is passed to AI for the learning part. If it is learned to make some system much more hackable, then it is going to do in that particular manner itself.
I agree. I agree. And I think one thing that is very important to understand is that we are not tracking data as we used to. Like big data is now more of like AI creating its own context, and what it is putting in the context is like flexible control, I would say. I don't think it is entirely controlled. So,
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm so sorry to
Okay,
cut you
yeah.
off because we do have only 2 minutes left. And do you want time for questions, or would you like to just close off the conference by going further ahead in your conversation?
no, I think like we can take questions.
All right, so we have time for 2 questions. Who here in the audience has some questions for the panelists? Please, come on up.
Hello, gentlemen. So my question has to do with the knowledge of the methods and strategies that we currently have in regards to being able to collect data and process it in a way that could be private and yet give decision makers the ability to make informed decisions on their users. Or so for giving you an example, homomorphic encryption. But I want to go further and understand the limitations that these current strategies could impose on decision makers. Thank you.
Do I answer first? Okay. So the example I brought up before, differential privacy, is very interesting because it's not just the name of the solution, but the underlying theory. So any kind of solution, even homomorphic encryption, you come up with that has this ability that the global statistics are still inferable, but you can't shrink it down to an arbitrary number. So not just one set of users, but you can decide 5 users, a group, a village, whatsoever. Differential privacy is also the mathematical metric for this. So homomorphic encryption's privacy capability is measured with a metric called LDP, liquid differential privacy. So it's not just the solution, but the solution set will be contained under this abbreviation.
But sorry, just do like at a product level, would we still keep the same abilities to infer strategies and results of our product?
Do I still have time to answer this? Yes. Not the same. So the capability, absolutely. If I have time for an example on local differential privacy, the most famous one, this is from Bruce Schneier, when we are trying to determine the number of communists in a room with coin tosses. So what we do, and you're going to get the intuition behind LDP here, is that we flip coins. If the first one is head, you tell the truth. Either you're a communist or not. But if it's tails, then you flip again. And if it's head, you tell you're a communist, even if you're not. And if it's tails, the second one, then you are not. And you see that it distorts the global data set by 25%. So your accuracy, and this is my answer, that you distort and skew your data. So a company who doesn't do this is going to have more qualitative data and inference, but you don't lose the ability. And you also see from this example that no single person can be questioned whether you are a communist or not, because 50% of the cases, that coin was flipped tails on the first.
But we don't have anything better.
No, of course we have actually, infinitely times better. So Google's solution, the Raptor code, you can make as many coin flips as you want. So the chances get larger and larger, and it's inversely proportional.
Yeah, so that is what I was going to tell. So if you flip coins, first coin, you have a 50% probability of getting heads and tails. So if you have 10 coins flipped, your probability gets increased. So that is how it is. It is a mathematical equation itself. Yeah, nothing to add on.